All right, you maggots, listen up. Uh, First off, I want to go right into it with the band spread. Now, first we'll do the main tuning. Here's your typical capacitor. High frequency, back to the lowest frequencies. Now the band spread on this radio is not like any other band spread. Right now, with those, with these, with the vanes up, that band spread is off. Now, in its operation, it goes to the right for one set of ham frequencies, like say 40 meters off, and then it goes the other way to, let's say, 80 meters. So if you got the radio dials off and you want to do a quick tune-up to make sure everything's working before you put it all back together, remember to put it in this position where the vane, the moving vane, isn't in either side. So you say that's 80, say that's 40. It might be the other way, but anyway, that's off is in the center. You'll notice on the dial, it has a position you turn it to when you just want to work the main dial. So that's the trick. It took a while for me to find it. I emailed a couple guys asking them what's up with the band spread. What position is it in when you want to set the main tuning? And I didn't realize it's not a normal band spread. And I got lucky on this one. The person did not spray the band knob for the band selector. That's one of the biggest problems with this radio. If you go reading, you got to do a lot of reading on this radio because you got the guys out there that are just making stuff up, and then the guys that are trying to actually fix the radio. So this radio, I made a thing about this radio, and I said that the person played make believe. But what happened to him was two things. The third band was not working. One of the capacitors became extremely leaky. It was a 0.0047, which would be 4,700 picofarads. That one became shorted, and the oscillator would only work in one section. So that guy was playing he changed all the parts down in that area, but I guess he didn't know how to check the capacitors. The other thing that happened to his coil was helicopters winds their coils around this real slippery Bakelite module thing. It's injection molded, whatever it was. And it's very slippery. And then they wound the coils. It's cotton covered wire. It's sort of Litz wire. They wind it and then they wax it. And then over time, the cotton shrinks and it starts pulling down on the coil towards the terminals. But it can't move because it's wax. Well, if you put the radio in a warm area, the wax loosens up and the coil is able to move. The coils move, and the frequency of that coil is off from the tuning slug, and then you can't really get it within range of the tuning slug. You gotta like compromise. That's what's wrong with this one. I had the coil out, and I'm starting to realize what actually happened to that one coil. The other coils are wound a little bit differently, so if they move together. But the way this one, well, anyway, that's what happens to the coils. Now the on-off switch might not work on this radio. That's because the pot, the volume control, has been sprayed inside. And if you take it apart, you got to take the volume control apart, take the switch off, clean it with an eraser inside. The one guy's showing you that. He says it got ruined from being sprayed, but then he goes and puts some other different cleaner on it. Clean it with an eraser and put it back together. You know, ohm it out, make sure it works. And the number one problem with these old radios is if anybody has sprayed it with any kind of cleaner, the wafer switches, the Bakelite that was made out of, becomes conductive. You get carbon tracks. There's videos on it. The guy actually shows you the wafer switch. He shows you how conductive it becomes. He has to break that part off and then put a piece of epoxy in that area. And he says it's from the spray. He knows. He says, look at this. He says it's been embalmed, I think is the word he used. So people constantly on the groups tell you to use spray cleaner on. On the one tube, I don't know if it's in the frame, this tube here, This is the oscillator mixer. Let me see if it stayed in focus. Okay. They tell you to put the cleaner in the pins and put this tube in and out. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, doing that is a big mistake. First of all, putting it in the contacts of the switch and cleaning them and letting it dry, that's one thing. But using the tube in and out to scrape the oxide off is bad, because now you have two different metals with an acid that causes a battery. That causes real quick corrosion. You just ruin that tube socket. Unless you got a problem, leave that tube alone. See, a lot of these guys, they shoot from the hip with all these stupid ideas, and then you see the poor guy struggling, and then he's trying to find a, I think it's riveted in. Let me look. Yeah, that octal socket. You can still get them. It's riveted in. It's a 3-hour job to change that. Yeah, drill that out and change it and rewire it and all that. Be very careful about what people tell you. I try to warn you. Watch out for this. Watch out for that. And some people don't like me because, you know, I pick on the ham radio guys. Just because you got a ham license doesn't mean you know how to fix a radio. And these guys go in there with their big thumbs. And then I buy the radio on eBay. And I can tell you right away, the guy was trying to fix 40 meters. You know, forensics. I did forensics on it. I know my radios. But I also wanted to warn you about this radio. It's extremely hard. Let's face it, it's 75 years old. There's parts you can't buy. There's capacitors that have gone bad. I showed you the BFO capacitors go bad. Oh, another thing, people, you'll see marks on this BFO on the top. That means the person has put this on its back. Never put this radio on its back. Put the transformer, that's in the frame, put this side down towards the bench when you recap it. These get broken. I have some nice marks on this one from someone that put it on its back. You know, I can tell you a lot about this radio because there's a lot involved. I won't say it's the hardest radio to work on because it was cobbled together by Helicrafters. There's a 4-page update on the radio to modify it to make it work like it's supposed to. You know, I'm not worrying about that. I'm getting it working. I know the FM band, the full FM band will never really work right. You have to hand select this tube here. You have to get a bunch of them to pick the best one to get the oscillator to do its full range. There's other people that claim you do this or that. The radio, when they were shipping them, weren't working right. That's all I got to say. And there's people that say, oh, it's really a good radio. That sucks you in. But it's not. I wanted it because it's a triple tune front end. It does DX pretty good on AM broadcasts. I have other radios. I just like working on something in my spare hours. When you're retired, you have a lot of spare hours. This thing is really a challenge, but it goes from past challenge to pain in the ass. And then when you go around and you see what people are telling you, you have to keep reading in order to find the real solution. You know, like that coil creep, where the coil, the wires tighten up, the cotton tightens up and pulls the coil down on the form, and now it's past the, it moves past the tunable, that would be a ferrite slug, and that was driving me crazy. And then the other thing is, you know, I turned this to where I could see the veins come up, and I didn't realize it was down this way. It was still in there, and that was messing my calibration. See, I want to calibrate and make sure the oscillators have their full ranges before I put the thing back together. And of course, Helicrafters put a special Bandspread capacitor in there, which, you know, I turned it all the way to one side, and I was going nuts. And then I turned it the other way, you know, because you still see the veins up in the air. And I'm like, what is going on? And then, like I said, I emailed the guy. I went looking. I finally found somebody that put it into words and says, I can't get calibration right. I have the dials off. He's doing exactly what I did. The reason I took the front dials mechanism out is it has to be rebuilt. And I didn't want to break anything. When you keep turning this thing around and working with it, you can hook it and break those dials. And other people have said they got the radio and the dials are broke because it got shipped. It wasn't packed right. These things are a nightmare. And I got pretty lucky with this one for only 200 bucks. There's one on eBay for $400. It's a piece of shit. Okay, the radio is bad enough itself, but to get a bad one that's all rusted or banged up, or that's sad. To pay $400 plus shipping, and then most people won't finish it. And the best information about this radio are the websites where someone's actually done it. One guy actually went all the way through it, and then he quit a couple years ago. He worked on it every year a little bit, and he's got no audio. And that one led me into a blind thing. But then there are other ones, and then in the groups, somebody will do a link, and you'll do a link to a website that's got good information, and it's not Google won't find it for you, or Yahoo won't find it for you. So that's what you got. You got to do a lot of reading, and when you get a problem, like I'm actually telling you what to watch out for, what to do. There are other guys. Watch everybody's video, and then you have to draw your own conclusions. I think that's it. All right, that's it.